All right, welcome to episode number 173 of the Canadian Prepper Podcast. We're recording on August the 14th, 2022. My name is Eric, host of the show based in Southern Ontario, hunter, target shooter, ham radio operator, and of course, computer geek. As a first responder, witnessed an over-reliance on emergency services during major events, and I started a small preparedness company to help people get better prepared for 72 hours, if not longer.
My name is Ian. I'm a hermit from Vancouver Island, and I'm currently exiled to the city.
Hey everybody, I'm Brad. I'm in Eastern Ontario. I consider myself a part-time amateur prepper, constantly trying to better myself.
Hey guys, I'm Scott. Yes, for real. All someone had to do was say wood gas fire 3 times, and all my worries about fragile infrastructure would be available to you.
Hey guys, I'm Darius. I'm a full-time mag leader and avid prepper based out of Southern Alberta.
Hi, I'm Dave. I live in Ontario. I have been an enthusiast of the outdoors for most of my life. About 10 years ago, I decided, as I looked at the world around me, that there wasn't any way that we could continue to rely on the government and our society, I noticed, was taking a decline. So I decided to start homesteading and prepping.
Welcome to our group of friends.
Yes, welcome, Dave.
Want to help support the show and keep the Canadian Prepper Podcast on the air? Buy some swag. We have both the Canadian Prepper Podcast t-shirt and tactical Velcro patch at www.prepperpodcast.ca. All proceeds keep the lights on and the backup generator fueled.
And if you're enjoying the show, please take a few minutes to give us a like on Facebook and submit a review on iTunes. Also, we want your feedback, good, bad, or just a topic you want us to cover. You can email us at feedback@prepperpodcast.ca.
All right, so we've got some mutually beneficial content for you in this episode. We're going to start off with some recent news articles, then we'll let you know what we've done for our own preparedness since the last episode, and then we're going to get into the main topic, building and maintaining a mutual assistance group. So let's move into the news, shall we?
So I have one bit of news. It's off of Newsweek. So apparently there's been some research at a couple different facilities down in the States that are going through fusion energy and trying to make a sustainable energy resource. They were able to create 1.3 megajoules of energy in the space of a couple nanoseconds. The only issue with that is they're trying to figure out how to harness that electricity as it's created so that it can be used and transferred to, our everyday lives and the power that we use. If they can get it running properly, the only byproduct of this fusion is helium, which apparently is a resource the world is currently running out of. So we'll be able to turn hydrogen into helium.
Sounds interesting.
Yeah.
One of the problems that has come up with this, apparently, is some of the fusion reactors need tritium as seed material, which is an incredibly short supply. And apparently CANDU reactors are one of the few sort of devices that actually produce tritium. So that might actually be really good for Canada going forward.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there's been lots of talk about that LENR systems, the low energy nuclear reaction and stuff. And yeah, it's new technology they're all trying to get a hold of and perfect, but they'll probably end up blowing up a few things first before it gets worked out, I'm sure. In good human fashion, right?
Obviously.
Yes,
Of course.
which will lead us to our another nuclear preparedness episode and all that stuff. But anyway,
More good content.
Yeah, speaking of flammable items,
I'll get the research started now.
Oh yeah. Russians are continuing to tighten the gas taps in Europe. So I just had a little article here, a CNBC video, I guess it was, where they're just talking about how it's going to affect European economies and ability to heat this winter and stuff. They figure by December 5th, there's going to be some people complaining about the internal building temperatures because of gas supplies running short in Central Europe. Anyway, so interesting video to watch. The link will be in the show notes.
Gonna have to check that out.
So I have a news article in here talking about a survey, don't freak out yet, saying more than 50% of Americans expect there to be a civil war within the next quote-unquote few years. And it was a well-done survey done by researchers at University of California, Davis. And quite interesting, well done, and just sort of looking at political violence and that kind of thing. And I'm not getting into politics. That's a whole different CPP. But in terms of looking at the potential for a massive disruption to, if you think supply chains were bad with COVID, if the U.S. were in civil war, I'm pretty sure we're not getting our Mexican avocados anytime soon. So it's something that's on my radar. So
Well, I don't think you need to have a kinetic civil war to have a civil war either. Like, I mean, I think in today's day and age, there's not going to be like a Mason-Dixon line and, red or blue versus gray and, shooting cans at each other. I think you're going to see a lot more neighborhood to neighborhood problems. And like you said, so affecting supply chain or manufacturing ability or something, because if somebody torches a factory they don't agree with or whatever, it could be a lot more localized than regional, I think.
Oh, absolutely. And I mean, the potential for disrupting the huge amount of product that we get from the States, be it food product, manufactured, whatever, it's a giant potential problem. So the fact that 50% of them, or over 50% of Americans are worried about this tells you something.
Cool.
Oh, this is true. Well, shall we move into what we've done lately for preps?
All right, I'm going to pretend to be Ian and talk about all the different things because I've been off for a few weeks. So I was at work and there was a car pulled over and it was out of gas. Someone had a jerry can. So we just kind of stopped behind his little back block. And this cute little woman in stilettos wasn't really sure how to operate the gas can. And two guys walked up, presumably because she was a cute little girl in stilettos. And they didn't know how to use a jerry can either. They were going to pull the nozzle out and try and use it as a funnel to pour in. So, yeah.
You're joking, right?
No, I wish I was. I mean, we just kind of stopped behind to sort of so traffic can go around and sort of we're a big vehicle. It's easy to see us. But at that point, we had to jump out and intercede because I didn't want to watch someone go up in flames because that would be a lot of work. Moral of the story is we sort of take it for granted that some of the skill set that we talk about here is common knowledge, and it's not. So
Common sense is not very common.
that it is not.
It's a superpower.
It is.
Other stuff I've done, I've been playing around trying to set up a radio comm network for my mag. Just playing around with some FRS radios and sort of seeing what we can accomplish person to person, even if we have to do a relay system because we don't have good line of sight between two of us. If sort of amongst our local gang, we can all chat. I figured that'd be useful.
If it works, use it.
Exactly. Not everyone, unfortunately, has ham radio licenses, so this is some way we can just communicate with whomever, and it's obviously really easy to find equipment when you can just walk down to your Canadian Tire and grab one. I ordered some USB rechargeable batteries. We'd had a discussion about this online, and I thought it was kind of cool that I'd ordered them a week or two ago. So I think they're, a lovely system. During that discussion, we started talking about this dynamo charger that I have. Just a little hand crank charger, puts out USB power, and you can charge pretty much anything with it. Not an iPhone, ironically. You need to charge a battery to charge the iPhone. That's a little finicky. The interesting thing was that within our discussion group here, with some of our panelists, this was sort of a neat thing that people hadn't heard of before. So it goes to the point of this entire podcast talking about these little ideas that you might not know about and just sort of sharing this knowledge. So I believe Rapid Survival sells a radio that has a little dynamo hand crank that you can use to charge your phone, charge USB batteries, whatever. So I think that's a fantastic thing. And it's, if you're in a situation where you have a lot of time on your hands or a long walk, it's a great fidget thing and you got power going. It doesn't need sunlight, you can work indoors. So that's kind of cool.
Yeah.
One other thing I did is I hosted an outdoor movie night. Got a little projector screen set up and played a cartoon movie and did campfire and s'mores. And I realize it doesn't sound like prepper stuff, but when you look at, I mean, Alan has said it so many times, that boredom can be just deadly. I think the last 2 years, 2.5 years, I've taught everyone that having a little bit of normalcy is really nice. And in the event that the world goes sideways, if you can have your mag over and your neighbors over and meet people because you're hosting a movie night and it gives people that little sense of normal, I think that is an invaluable asset. So I think it's a great thing to add to your mag, hypothetically.
Did we talk about your post-apocalyptic business plan? One of them was movie projections, I think.
Obviously, yes.
Yeah, so
sort of.
along the battery or the iPhone charging and everything else, it's going to be honest Scott's house of electricity, and it's going to be awesome.
The other side of the movie night is it brings community together if everybody knows, and now you can start networking and see where somebody can help somebody else, and you can make some deals. Kids watching a movie, husbands and wives off doing something else, making small talk and getting to know each other, and everybody's having a good time at a mutually agreed upon place.
And for my, to run it, the cost is negligible. Even
I assume you're using your gasifier.
A lot, obviously. Yeah. But it's sort of in downtimes. Like I've sort of planned this to be a very low energy, high yield event where people are going to enjoy it. Historically, you look at the Great Depression, and movies did quite well during the Great Depression because it was that little bit of escapism that people just needed. And, if we're doing it here just for family and friends and to make some s'mores over the campfire, amazing. If it's sort of this social event that people are looking forward to all week, amazing. I really don't see a downside to it. So anyway, it was a lot of fun, and I think it was a very valuable prep.
Nice.
I will agree with that. I have a projector myself. I have an outdoor Bluetooth speaker. I have my own battery box. I don't need a generator to run everything on it, and the battery box doubles as a stand to hold the computer and or the projector on it, and I can move the speaker a little further away to give a better sound quality and whatnot. And I think it's a really good idea. We've done that a couple of times here.
Yeah, it's just a lot of fun.
Yeah.
The little projector I have, I mean, I'd love to have a more powerful one, but the nice thing is it runs on 12-volt DC. So I can just
sweet.
Plug it directly to a battery rather than having to do a generator or a battery pack converter. I mean, you always lose power anytime you do a conversion. So if you just go 12 volts straight in, I can play that for days.
Or you could get a couple of your hookahs to hook up to the bicycle and have to pedal really fast to charge up. Never mind. We'll talk about that later.
Well, I have done nothing for my preps. I am getting ready for my East Coast trip, and that in itself is enough. It's been keeping me busy, getting things cleaned up around the house and getting things packed and ready to go and whatnot. And yeah, so I've been busy doing that.
Nothing wrong with that. I'm going to follow up with the zero answer as well. Spent the last week getting everything kind of cleaned up at work and packed away because I'm off now for 2 months on parental leave. So yeah, lots of time now to do some preps and get everything lined up. But for the last week, nothing.
Seems we have a consensus. I'm at the zero mark pretty much as well. Yeah, I was at home for a grand total of 12 hours last week, of which I've spent 8 of them sleeping. So really, I had enough time to kiss the dog and pet the wife. Is that backwards? Or did I? I don't know. Maybe that's not backwards. I don't know. Anyway, moving along. Yeah.
Oh
so
boy!
I have been trying to find an alternate location for the daughters that are trying to attend university because the place they're in right now isn't acceptable and certainly doesn't work for me as an alternate backup device for certain things. So, but again, trying to find rentals in Vancouver right now is trying to get on that last plane out of Afghanistan again. There's bidding wars for rentals right now, and I'm like, homie, don't play that. So.
Wow.
I've been missing out on a lot of rentals. Yeah. I did have a solar powered crank radio as well. The first thing that broke was the crank a long time ago. So I kind of, forgot all about those things. And when Scott mentioned those hand crank dynamos, I was like, ooh, wizardry. So I may have ordered a couple as well. So they're on the way eventually from China. And the port's open and the war ends and whatever. So, yeah. Anyway, so Dynamo's on the way. That's pretty much the entire point of my week of preps.
Suppose I'll have to pick up a little bit of the slack here for this week. I did a little bit of ammo prep, spent a good chunk of this week avoiding the 28, 29, 30, 32 degree weather up here. And then I helped a MAG member to gear up for a solo scouting and camping trip that he's going to be doing this coming weekend. So he'll be heading up into the edge of the mountains, kind of looking around at a couple different routes that we're looking into.
Hopefully he filed a hiking plan with you as to where he's going and stuff.
Yeah, full plans and everything, full map. We went over all the maps, and he's bringing radios and such with him.
Good.
Very nice. All right. With that, shall we move into the main topic?
So we led into this week's topic really, really well last week. Having a group into people with different sets of skills who are able to assist when things are needed is all about having a MAG. I lead what I like to call a nested MAG. So I have a 6-person team who I actively prepare, train, and who gears up with me. And then we have an outer ring of about 9 other people who are all actively assisting each other all the time. Little do they know that they're part of my MAG. As far as everybody else is concerned, they're part of my family. So I'll go into this. What is a MAG for anybody who doesn't know? I was lucky to get into prepping and creating my own MAG at 19, so I've been doing it for quite a long time now. And most people in my group don't even know what the term means. It's a mutual assistance group, just putting it simply. To be honest, when most people think of the term MAG, they think of a group of people running around in military camo doing drills out in fields, from what I've talked to. Everybody I've talked to about it, that's the first picture that comes to mind, and they're automatically going, well, I don't want to be a part of this. I don't want to be on 1,000 watch lists from the government. And then I have to, go ahead.
Especially since militias are technically not legal in Canada, right? So yeah, you can't really say, hey, we're starting our own militia today. That's, guaranteed watch list material.
Yep.
So.
Terrible idea.
Not the world's best idea, but a non-militarized, I guess not self-sufficiency, but aid group is perfectly fine. So
A group of like-minded individuals who happen to be friends who like to go out and practice preparedness things.
Yeah,
exactly.
So the Boy Scouts?
For adults.
Close enough. Yeah,
Pierre,
for adults, close enough.
Pierre in the live chat does have a valid question here. Is it a requirement for MAG members to have multiple can openers, or is that just a Brad thing?
Well, did you guys ever watch that original Antonio Banderas movie Desperado, when Danny Trejo's dressed up as the knife guy and he's got like 40 knives down his chest there and he's ready to start throwing? It's like,
yes.
Can openers.
Absolutely.
That's full.
Bandolero of can openers is, hey, confident man. If your MAG can't open a can of beans, you are a much needed supplier at that point.
Just have it. That's what molly loops are for, right? Just to put the can.
Absolutely.
Ooh, yeah.
I have a friend.
I
have a friend who's altering my trench coat as we speak.
Nice.
Oh.
So you just need to invite somebody who can do Tupperware sales into your group. Tupperware carries can openers.
Oh God.
There you go. Everything we can't do.
Cool thing about them is that they actually don't cut open the cans. They remove the factory glue seal, so there's no sharp edges.
Yeah.
Interesting bit for you.
I must research.
So I'll send you a link later. So we started off really simple when I built my MAG, and I'm actually going to use what Scott said earlier as an example now because it turns out absolutely perfectly. Inviting people over to a campfire, or just having a group of people over to your house for dinner or what have you. and helping them out. It's all I did to start off my mag and developing the relationships before I got anybody else involved with prepping. After I had gathered with, the group of people who I was interested in having in my mag multiple times, family dinners, campfires out in the backyard, just hanging out and talking about whatever happened to come to mind, I started asking each individual person, what do they have for hobbies, or is there anything they're interested in learning? I took the initiative to help develop whatever they were trying to do. First of my friends who I had asked, he said that he'd been interested in trying out leatherwork for a number of years. So I took the opportunity to gather up some leather that I had sitting in my basement for the better part of 2 years, because I had wanted to try working in the exact same way. And like so many other projects, it just got thrown onto the back burner because I didn't have the time to deal with it. So I threw that to him, amassed a bunch of tools from other people who had previously tried the endeavor of working with leather, and I passed him the entire package saying, here, now you have some stuff to work with your leather. Can you make me a pouch to go on my belt? In my case,
for a Lord Humongous outfit?
No.
Okay.
In my case, it's actually a little 8-shot 308 holder for hunting.
Nice.
Yeah, so, and since I gave him that project, he's being hard at work on it, just developing how to work with leather. He's trying out all the stamping techniques with it, dyeing and water forming, and turning it really cool.
Yeah, kind of like the original Kydex setup, right?
Yeah, very similar. And he's doing all kinds of different designs and having a huge bit of fun with it. So every time I run across tools, now I just throw them at him. And now, because of that, he's gaining a skill that in the future could assist me with whatever needs to be done. I started going to everybody who I knew and doing the same thing, whatever they were interested in, and slowly developing their skills. And then reaching out to them every day, asking, is there anything that you need? How's the projects going? Little did they know that by me reaching out to them this way, they're getting used to just a constant interconnection between our entire group. Now, the main 6 of us who are part of my full-time prep group, there's barely a single day that we go without touching base with each other, seeing how everybody's going, and we're constantly communicating and training together.
Professor Moriarty, I must compliment you. That is absolute genius. But it's so true. When you look at so much of building a mag is just inventorying the skills of the skills and interests of your friends, coworkers, people around you, neighbors, so that exactly that. When you need leather work done, you know who to go to. The fact that you are helping people develop their own hobbies for your benefit is doubly genius. So kudos.
Well, I was actually going to throw in a Puppet Master joke there, but you just went up me there, Scott, with the Professor Moriarty reference. So screw you anyway. But anyway, Pierre has a comment. You should have gotten assless chaps as a first gig. Fun fact, Pierre, all chaps are assless.
Right?
Yeah. If you rode a horse, you would know that. Anyway. Anyways, Phil says the invisible hand of Darius shaping the future. Yeah, no, that's actually and again, like not making fun of Darius at all, because I mean that's good leadership, right? I mean he's convincing people to do what he wants them to do and think that it's their idea and basically self-motivate. So that's like leadership in a nutshell, right there, right? Like towards a common goal. So that's beautiful. That was well done.
I'm fairly sure they all regret it now.
Well, yeah, but now they're kind of committed, right? And now
do they even know that?
No, but they got the group pressure to continue to perform, right? So, like, if one guy falters, the other guys are gonna be like, "Hey, where's my assless chaps?" And then so there's that group pressure to produce and create for the group, right?
Yep.
So
I like the whole way of getting it
And-
started without them even really knowing what was happening.
yeah.
And then
Yeah,
just
and
molding the whole group into one, and all of a sudden one day everybody realizes, wait a minute, we're all working as a group here. And just to kind of run at it and just say, hey, let's start a mutual assistance group out of nowhere will probably freak a lot of people out. But if you start
agreed.
slow like you did and just kind of mold them together and then let them realize what's happened after, I think that's brilliant.
I think, quite
Yeah.
frankly, these days, it's so easy. People don't see it as a tinfoil hat anymore. People are like, yeah, the world is kind of going downhill. Maybe it's not a bad idea to get into gardening or whatever. And I find it's very easy to strike up that conversation, find out what people are interested in. And, sort of like a coworker I was getting to know a couple of days ago, like, oh, rebuilding a car just as a skill they wanted to learn. That's really cool. So I think because it's so easy to make that sales pitch right now, and one of the things that I do that is not quite as good as Professor Moriarty there, if I'm giving a Christmas present or something, I'll give like a little intro prepper kind of item, like, hey, this is kind of cool. Maybe, this would be of interest to you.
Here's a
So
dynamo.
Exactly. I've given out a lot of those, actually.
Eric's and sorry, Dave, we don't mean to step on you there. If you have a question, just pipe in. Just overtalk us, please.
Right.
For sure.
Eric's
Eric's got a good question here. Says, how wide of an area would a wide area mag encompass? How far away are the guys in a mag from each other? At least to be practical.
To answer this, I can give a very, very easy definition. I would almost consider the people who are here in this panel part of a wide area mag ourselves. And we branch from BC to Ontario, down in the States in some cases. And at any point, I am sure that if I were to, say go from here in Alberta to Ontario, all I'd have to do is pick up our forum or pick up my phone, give one of them a call and say, hey, I'm in the area. Do you mind giving me a hand? Right? One of these guys would, let me know where to show up. Right? That's all it takes. And that's just from our communications here.
I 100% agree with you. You sort of look at like, okay, what are my bug out plans? If I'm here, if I'm there, would this be a waypoint in the middle? To answer the question more directly, sort of in terms of a local mag, in terms of friends, neighbors, people in town, if we end up in a situation where the world is very much human powered, so 2 feet and a heartbeat or a bicycle,
Horse.
Yeah. I think that is going to sort of help dictate that. But at the same time, if you have radio comms with someone and, it's not practical to travel there back and forth, but all of a sudden you realize you have an asset they need or vice versa, and it's worth making that trek. You need antibiotics and so, it's more than a day's walk, but you need it. So all of a sudden that makes it more practical. So I kind of look at geography in terms of walking distance or biking distance in resource limited times. And that sort of helps dictate what I think a mag is, with the caveat that, all your like-minded friends, wherever they are certainly going to be useful at some point if you're passing through.
Well, yeah. Pierre mentions Darius that if you do show up in Eastern Ontario, you have to bring the chaps. But same thing. Or myself, my mag technically. With the panelists here, I do travel across the country for work. So yeah, if I am stuck in Halifax or Toronto or something, I know Eric would be like, "Who are you? Go away."
Yeah, I don't know. You just showed up tonight,
followed by the racking of a shotgun or something, just as an
Maybe
extra warning. But
Right.
no, seriously, yeah. If I had a problem, I'd be like, you put up one of the other CPP guys. They're a rough crowd, I tell you. But they at the drop of a hat, I'm sure they help me out if required. So, or vice versa. If they found themselves in the middle of nowhere on the island, I would help them. So, anyway.
Yeah. As far as the practicality of a mag and distance, it's really dependent on what your situation is going to be and where you think you find yourself. Like Ian said, he travels all over the country for work, so it's practical to have people all over the place. If you just stay in a small area, it's practical to have people close by. It really depends on the situation you're planning for and the situation that you run into daily, right?
And it depends what you need out of people. If
Mhm.
it's a more distance than is practical to travel, but you still have comms, you can pass along knowledge quite easily. I mean, we're
It's a great point.
live in an era where knowledge is fairly available. So that specific knowledge that you're looking for might be more than a day's walk, but it's a 2-minute conversation at your scheduled time with your mag discussion group on FRS radios.
Yeah, you can see it even
And
now.
I suppose this is
with Discord. I mean, how many times do I hop on there and ask you guys a question, and usually within an hour somebody's answering it.
Yeah.
Oh, exactly. Yeah.
It's a good resource for sure because everybody's
Exactly.
got different experience and different backgrounds too. So I mean, yeah, like if you have Discord's been fantastic as long as it remains up. It's a great resource, right?
Well, even I'm just stating, like, if things go bad, then yeah, we have the radios to pass on knowledge. I'm just saying is that communication is a great resource for helping each other.
Exactly. And I suppose this is a good point to also segue into 2 other points regarding the mag. The first is that when working with a mag, I will add the caveat that to do all of the things that I've done to help develop people's skills, by far is not easy. You have to be constantly thinking about it and be relentless in communicating with people and willing to put in the work on your own. I couldn't develop anybody's skills until I had learned what they wanted out of it, gone out of my way to figure out what I could do to help them, and then physically gone to them and said, this is what I have available for you. Here's what I can do to help. And then in building those relationships with them, I've done a lot of other stuff that's just, a phone call away. Hey, I'm available. Is there anything you need a hand with? I've spent weekends underneath another guy's car just to give him a hand, replacing parts and draining an oil pan or tilling a garden or painting, a living room just so that I could be there to help them when they needed just an extra hand or somebody to talk to. And by being available myself and spending my time and energy to do that, that's where it built up our relationships. And then the second point is when addressing mags that are close together or mags that are far away, the next thing that always comes up is, well, how much is too big of a mag? How many people should you aim for to have? And the answer to that is, as somebody who is bringing this mag together and leading them or being the one who's going out and helping, how much or how many people can you reach out to and be able to help before you no longer have the time or availability? Are you able to still reach out to these people every single day, or are you becoming too tied up with one, assistance and help after the next call that you can't contact anybody anymore? As soon as you hit that point where it's beyond your ability to communicate with these people, then you need to stop and look at maybe cutting back a little bit.
That's fair.
To your first point, Darius, I don't look at mags nearly as formally. I look at exactly what you're describing, being a good friend to people and helping them out when they need it, and them knowing they can count on you, you knowing you can count on them. And even if that sort of friend group mag, whatever you want to call it, has kind of grown to the point where you can't necessarily check in or be available to help everyone every day. Just having that knowledge base and saying like, oh, I can't help you out, but I know so and so has an enclosed trailer. That'd probably be perfect. Why don't you? Yeah, and you can just make that introduction and connection, and you're not trading necessarily on favors for friends. You're sort of just making those introductions, and if that knowledge and that networking, I mean, that's kind of what we're talking about, right? Like,
Exactly.
so and so has an interest in leather work or ham radio or whatever. So you can sort of put them in touch, and all of a sudden it helps that whole competent man concept of adding skills to the entire group, or available to the
Yeah.
entire group, I guess.
I will also say with that, the amount that I've had to learn just to be able to figure out how to provide other members of my mag with information. Whenever I have a conversation with people who are outside of our group now, I just have people sitting there going, well, how do you know so much? And my answer to that is I spent a lot of time just reading it, just studying it and looking it up as much as I could, because I had somebody else ask me a similar question.
That's fair.
Yes, we got a good point in the live chat from Yup, That's Me. Asks, how would you deal with personality issues? That's
Beat me
definitely
to
something
it.
you got to think about for mags.
Well, I
Right.
think especially like, okay, so not just wives, but like just even if you already have mag members that are accepted, and two mag members, for example, that have the skill sets you're after, have a personality conflict. I mean, you don't want to kick both of them out, but you got to deal with that somehow long term and make sure everybody's good, right?
Absolutely. And there's
And
going to be personality conflicts. Let's not kid ourselves.
Screw you,
every
Eric.
time.
Who is this?
Every time, and I've actually dealt with this in my own mag before, and I actually found a very simple way to deal with it, and it's develop team working instances, but don't necessarily have the two people who are conflicting work together. Set them on teams with other people in your group and give them challenges where the individual groups have to work together to, just give them a training scenario or, a what if scenario that, it gives them the chance to think through and work through critically. And by working together, but not being partners with each other, they'll be able to work around each other and set aside their differences, at least while, your safety, security, or your challenge or what have you, whatever scenario you're going through is being dealt with. They don't have to communicate outside of our group. Right? I don't care if they hate each other, but as long as they're willing to work together with us and to set aside their differences when they're around the rest of our mag and the people who we're helping, then I don't mind.
Remember the good old days you could just punch somebody in the nose and just drink a beer afterwards and call it a day?
Right.
Yeah, it's no different than dealing with a group of people wherever you are, whether it be workplace or mag or whatever, even like a sports team or something. There's always going to be personality conflicts, and just being able to kind of navigate them and refocus everybody on the mission at hand kind of helps put them back on that track of, we're kind of, bantering back and forth here. Maybe like our personalities are clashing, but if you remind them of the mission at hand, it kind of helps put them back on track, remind them why everybody's together, and helps them push past that little hiccup.
Well, and hopefully that mission becomes really apparent when we all have a common enemy, be it Red Dawn or just Mother Nature, and we're all trying to survive together, and all of a sudden, hopefully the petty differences that seem to be an issue during training are less of an issue in the situation.
Is that Scott's Matrix glitching? I knew he was an AI.
Sounds like it.
He was an AI bot from minute one.
Yep.
I knew it.
Yep.
All right.
Oh man, talk about
okay,
personality conflicts.
I'm gonna mute him out. Actually,
I think
He is
he
good
was
now.
going to say that they have to wear the assless caps until they get along as a discipline measure.
yeah, it could be. Is everybody getting that still?
Yeah, I'm still getting it.
Bad.
There's Brad.
Brad.
Brad's the robot.
I can't even make fun of Scott anymore. Okay. Anyway, actually, well, let's take it one step further than Darius. Say you guys can't get along. You got two members, you can't get along, and you make the tough decision. One of the guys has to go. Have you ever had to gracefully like remove somebody from the mag, or just kind of stop associated with them, or however you would do it? Like,
I haven't had to go through it yet, and I'm hoping that I never will. But one of the things that I have done, because I'm at the point where I didn't invite anybody into my preps or into my close circle of my mag until I considered them all to be family members. And that helps to mitigate that a little bit. But if something does happen down the road where that happens to change for whatever reason, I've made the expectations of what we do and what we, are willing to do very clear with everybody in my mag. And I discuss that with them regularly. Whenever something comes up, it's, here's where we'll draw the line. Here's what we can do and what we won't do as a group. And if somebody were to cross that, then it's simply a matter of going, look, you agreed to these standards and then you decided to go against them. I think it's time for you to step away. Right? As long as they're... So, like, when you have that accountability and those limits set forward ahead of time and very clear within the group, then when it comes time that somebody decided that they didn't want to follow that, at least then it's well understood what happened.
yeah, I guess
good point.
same thing. If somebody were to quit per se, and then an emergency happens, and all of a sudden they show up their gate, they're like, "Oh, I was just kidding. I actually still want to be part of this mag because I know you still got it."
It's a funny joke, guys. Funny joke.
Yeah. I'm really repentant here. I'm at the gate and I'm begging to come back in. Have you got any sort of like thought process on that going? Like, obviously it hasn't happened yet per se, but any thoughts on that?
Well, part of what I look into when I'm dealing with all of this is a little bit of twofold. If somebody were to show up at the gates per se and say, hey, I'm here, this emergency's happened, they're already there at that point. As long as I know that I have dealt with them previously and that we have that at least mutual respect between us, I can put them into a lesser position and then see if they can redeem themselves from that lesser position, as long as there is still some semblance of trust there, right? Between at least me and that person, if not them and the other members of the group, then I can start working on that with them. Now, go ahead.
Oh, no, I was going to say my last question I just had for you, but it was kind of related to that. Obviously, when you're vetting somebody for the mag, and doing some initial comms and stuff, we're not the federal government. We can't do daily continuous eligibility screening to these people. So, do you do any sort of background checks with their social media, or do you check them beforehand to make sure they're not going to be willing to quit or willing to be controversial or anything?
See, I'm lucky, and I don't have to get to that point. Again, before I introduce any of these people to the mag, we have them around for the fires. We have them around for, family dinners and stuff like that. And we are around them enough that they become family to us before we introduce them to that. And through that, there's, hours and hours, hundreds of hours worth of conversations with them. Learning who they are, what they believe in, how they feel about certain topics, figuring out what bothers them and what, helps them to get through every day. And by building those personal relationships first and then having them become a part of the mag, I don't have to worry about vetting them because I've already done it through thousands of hours of conversation. It's just Go ahead.
The reality is, at that point, if they are, you've spent that many hours and they are that extended family, regardless of what skills they're bringing or not, during a disaster, you're going to lean on each other, and you're going to be supporting each other. So whether it's a formal structured mag or just the people that you're going to lean on and count on, and vice versa, I don't really see a huge difference between the two. So, once they're already in his family, vetting, like you said, is kind of a moot point.
Exactly.
Just going to say we got another good question here in the live chat from William. And he just asks, what areas of expertise would be the first ones you look at for creating your mag? If we want to go down that rabbit hole.
I'd love to. Because I actually started doing exactly that while helping people out. Because what I started with was, a person's individual interests, what they were passionate about or wanted to get into. And then once I had developed that, of course, I'm not just going to sit there. So I start looking at, your basic preps. Somebody who's interested in handling food, somebody who's interested in fire building. And then I'll throw out, hey, are you interested in learning, about medical? I have all this information that I can provide you. And then I'll give them the opportunity to study it. I'll ask questions. If I were involved in this situation, what do you recommend that I do? Have you learned anything about that? One of my MAG members decided that he wanted to take a particular interest into food development and procurement. And he sat down and over the span of close to 3 months, he went through and figured out exact calculations on calories required to survive in any different activity levels for a single person per day. And then he took that further and decided, okay, what different fruits and vegetables do you have to grow to equal out these calorie balances? What would each person have to carry with them? What is able to be scavenged in our local area to help provide that? And he just went crazy with it. I still don't know half of what he learned. That covers our food for our mag as long as he's around. And then he's working on giving that information to other people to help them now. Whereas I also made sure that communications was covered. I started taking my ham radio course. I got another buddy in my mag who's also now taking his ham radio course and wants to build about a $6,000 backpack setup out of it. They think he's crazy, but
that's not crazy.
Crazy like a fox.
Yeah, exactly. Wait till he watches that video I'm about to mention there.
Yep.
That $6,000 backpack's turning into at least a $12,000 backpack after that.
Oh, I know. Right. So it's just, you start picking out, what are all the interesting things and what are all the important things that you need for a survival scenario. Figure out one person in your group who would be interested in learning that one topic and work one-on-one with them to help develop that topic. Food, medical, communications, shelter building, fire building, water purification, anything that you might need to survive in austere scenarios. And then once each person learns at least one of those, put them into group situations just over, chat groups or what have you, if they can't do it in person, and give them the opportunity to both of them work together at that same task to help implant that information to the second person in the group. And eventually everybody will have at least a basic knowledge of what's going on, with one person in your group being, a group specialist in it.
In the book by Half-Assed, the Lights Out EMP scenario, this whole neighborhood is coming together, dealing with survival and creating systems to meet everyone's needs. And it's really interesting, to speak to your point, Darius, where they sort of say, okay, we need someone who knows about farming, and we need an understudy so that that expertise gets passed on and carried on, so that exactly what you're describing can sort of have that expertise diffused, so that there's not a single point of failure for the group if something happens to the farmer guy or the medical guy or the radio guy. So I see tremendous value in sort of, you're right, sharing those interests and spreading that knowledge.
And again, a lot of that just starts off with me kind of subtly pulling the strings behind everyone, going, our group doesn't have anybody that I'm aware of that knows about this topic. So I'll research it enough to have an idea of what the topic is if I don't already have a little bit of an interest in it. And then I'll go, hey, I found this interesting. Do you want to look into it further for me? See what you can find out. And I'll just poke a little bit every couple of days to see, what they've learned new. And eventually they're studying it just as intently as I was.
Well, and I think if you meet people who are like-minded in terms of wanting the ability to be self-sufficient, if that's sort of a good description of what a prepper is, wanting the ability to be self-sufficient or have a group be self-sufficient, I think everyone is interested in gaining that knowledge. And when you plant that seed saying, ooh, this is something we should probably know about as our group, and yeah, hopefully someone jumps on it and says, oh, that's kind of cool. I'd like to learn about that, and runs with it.
Yeah, especially when somebody's got a pet hobby that they've always kind of wanted to pursue but haven't had the time, but they just need a little push. It's just a nice thing, right?
Yeah.
That sounds like excellent leadership.
Yep.
And to answer Eric's comment here about the good friend of his in the chat there, at the end of the day, you can't know everything that's going on with everybody around you. And in a situation like that, where things do start to get out of hand, just remember you have the rest of your mag with you at that point, or around you. So it's not just you dealing with the situation anymore.
Yeah,
Talk
I think
to them, figure out what they determine as well.
For the podcast listeners, just Eric had written, Eric F, sorry, had written, I agree, Darius. However, when push comes to shove, you really never know. When this last SHTF event happened, the disease of unknown origin, a good friend of his turned out to be not so much. So, yeah, I think a lot of people act differently when they're under stress, various sorts, right? It doesn't take just a global emergency. It could be just a localized one, too, before somebody just loses their mind and turns into somebody you don't recognize, right?
Yeah, and you never know how somebody is going to react to that stress until they're under it. Right? You can plan for that over and over and over with your mag, but until you're actually in a high stress situation, you honestly don't know how everybody's going to react. And some are just going to do the opposite of what you've practiced the entire time. So you have to be ready for that.
And then it just comes down to, sometimes you have to call the tough shot and just say, hey, I don't think this is going to work anymore. I think you need to find something else.
Yep.
And in everything that you do in life, there's going to be people where it comes to that. There's no other option for you that you can determine. And it's just a, call that has to be made. But one thing to keep a note with that is that when you're working with a mag or a large group, don't make decisions like that on your own. Talk to the other people who you trust who are involved with the situation and determine if they agree with your decision. Make it as a group, and then it's a unanimous decision.
Yeah. Nothing will divide the group faster than one person calling all the shots and not having that discussion with everybody else first.
Yeah, it's got to be a cheerleading squad versus a cheertatorship, is what you're saying?
You got it.
Yeah, so actually that brings us back to, yep, that's me. I had another question. Is like one main leader or multiple leaders broken into area of expertise or experience. Yeah, I think Darius nailed it there. I think, by the same token that, decisions made by committee usually don't get made, but sometimes you need a little bit of a directive personality, but by the same token, you can't always be that guy.
Yeah. And as far as just, directly leading, I hate to lead, but when nobody else was making a decision, I step up and go, this is what I think we should be doing. What is your guys' opinion? And then somebody else makes the decision based off what their opinion is. And then I just delegate. I try not to make any decisions myself, if at all possible, unless it's super important and nobody else is willing to make that decision. I'll step up and I'll take the fall for whatever the, decision is. But otherwise, I'll, make a couple suggestions and have other people step up and take the lead to follow through with whatever they feel is needed.
Well, not just that. I think all there's some time critical too. Sometimes you have to step up and make that decision. But And one thing I actually didn't write down that I was going to ask your opinion on too. What about financial outlays or something? Have you guys got some sort of agreed upon, like, hey, if I run across a deal on leather for working, for my humongous mask, like, yeah, like, do you guys have like some sort of an agreement or kind of an informal thing where, like, if I find a big sheet of leather and I pay for it, are you going to reimburse me, or should I just eat it, or what's the plan?
Yeah, we were discussing stuff like that all the time. So like when it comes down to reloading ammo, for instance, everybody in my mag kind of pooled together to help me get the materials that I need to reload. And since I know the calibers that everybody has for their firearms, I help to reload for their firearms as well. And then I'll go to the range with them, do load development with them, and just keep a stockpile to help everybody else. And then they pitch in for consumables for that reloading as well. So in everything we do, whether it be leather working, I'll help to cover materials, they help to cover the working, or whatever other projects we have going on, and we just bounce back and forth off of each other, or we'll put in a pool together to get something that will benefit all of us.
I just wanted to just to go back for just a second to the whole leadership thing. I would think that, and I mean, you can't generalize, but I think that if you were the instigator, let's say, in putting a mag together, I think that a lot of people would look to you as kind of a leader or in a leadership type role. And I do agree that everything should be kind of laid out on the table, especially really important decisions, to let the group, have a say in regards to what's going to happen. But I think maybe if somebody was thinking about putting together a mag and was kind of going to be in that leadership role, that they should do some research in regards to being a leader and some of the characteristics that a good leader would have, and the way they would go about leading a group.
Yeah, I agree. And one of the things that I implement is that usually about once a year or once every 8 months or so, I'll put it to a vote with my group of my main people who I support with. Do you like the direction that we're going? Is there something that you think should be changed? Do one of you want to step up and start calling the shots for a little while? Right? Can you think of something that you would like to do differently? And invariably lately it's fallen back to me a lot, but just offering that for them to step up and them to be the one who's learning and making the decisions for a bit, I am more than welcome for any of them to step up and do so. Anybody in my group.
So if you get, sorry, go ahead.
Okay, I was gonna say, everybody on the panel here, like, I'm just looking at the panel right now and I'm like, it's not just a prepper thing. I think it's also a job thing. Like, everybody on the panel here has a job that requires a certain amount of self-startership, right? Like, and I think that there's kind of like a built-in desire to, like, herd the cats, so to speak. Sometimes when it comes to the prepping thing. So, like, I think that's part of the mentality of preparedness. So I think it comes as a natural thing where if you're trying to assemble mag and you are the preparedness-minded guy, you're gonna likely assume at least a minor or major leadership role, no matter what happens, just because that not everybody has that mindset, right? And so I think it's just a natural progression from there. But anyway, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
I was just going to make a joke. I was going to ask Darius. I was going to ask Darius if he got voted out, did he have to give up the assless chaps?
No. I think that you get to keep those at that point.
He gets to keep them at that point. Okay.
Yeah.
Does anyone else really want them at that point?
Good point. I do like the idea that you take the time to develop other members' leadership skills and abilities as well, because some who come into the group might not have those to begin with, right? So they come into the group wanting to be part of a group, but they don't necessarily have the knowledge or the confidence to lead. So if you kind of say, hey, I'll step back for a second, I'll be your safety net. I've been leading the group for however long, but if you want to step up and take on that role for a while, I'll be over here on the side. So if, you stumble, you fall, you trip or something, or you need some guidance, I'll help you out. But putting people in that role and kind of having them step out of their comfort zone for a bit is a good thing as well.
Yeah, and I make sure that I bring up and make the point to everybody in my group that I am 100% expendable as far as this group goes. we never know if, tomorrow I get hit by a bus and I'm no longer around. And I make sure that, they have the abilities to keep our group going, even if I'm not there calling the shots.
What you're describing evokes memories of me from university and a lot of the extracurricular groups where you have to do exactly that. You have to develop that leadership in other people. It's a very short turnaround if you only have people in for a couple of years and then they're graduating out. And if you don't build that leadership and sort of create that skill set in others, whatever the team, club, group is, it's going to flounder in the future. So this is just kind of the grown-up version of that, I think.
Yeah, exactly. It's the same thing that's also developed in military circles, where you have teams, and as long as your team knows the objective and you have some sort of chain of command, even if the team leader is killed or injured, the next person knows that they need to step up and continue on with that mission.
And it's important to have that defined too in your group so that they know if this happens, this is what we fall back to and how things are going to operate. And it's important to kind of plan for that because inevitably it's going to happen. Somebody in your group is going to unexpectedly leave for whatever reason, and you need to kind of paint the picture of here's what we're going to do to pick up and carry on.
I'd like to put a question to the panel here. Darius, your model of a MAG is very formal. I mean, we're sort of paralleling military structure with the chain of command. I look at MAGs as a very informal thing where I'm just trying to get to know all of my neighbors, all of my friends and acquaintances, find out what their interests are, and sort of share those mutual interests. And when I sort of hit it off with someone and I think the world's kind of going downhill. I want the ability to look after myself and my family. And, I look at a MAG much more informally. So my question to the panel is, on this big spectrum of a formal command chain structure MAG to an informal group of like-minded people, buddy of mine who I consider part of my MAG's like, oh, so-and-so's furnace crapped out. We need to find a bunch of space heaters. What do you got? And, it's just sort of a much more informal thing. Where do you guys sort of see MAGs or your MAG sort of on that spectrum from either end?
As far as sources go, or are places to start one, or is that what you mean?
No, in terms of what you envision a MAG being, if it's a more formal structure or if it's just an informal thing where it's just a lot of interpersonal networking and knowing people, and there's no reason you can't sort of help them develop their skills and interests as Darius was describing, but it also doesn't have to be a group meeting on a regular basis.
Yeah, I see where you're going with that. I mean, Dave points out a good one is that he found an organic magazine in the local church. Like-minded people who are willing to share, support, and members of a community. I think, if you went up to the front of a church during service and said, hey, you're all part of my MAG now, welcome. So when the SH shit hits the fan, you're in. That obviously would not go over well, right? But by the same token, though, it's yes, by having that basis of community and I guess you've known them beforehand, it's going to help long term. I think for myself, it's less formal by nature because a lot of people, if you mention the word preparedness or anything like that, and there's a generation issue there as well. So most of my neighbors, for example, I can't really start talking about that stuff yet, but I have got them into the mode of, between the egg sales and the campfires and, drinks at the fence line during COVID and all this other stuff, we've managed to kind of form a loose-knit community. We all know each strengths and weaknesses. There's one guy's local handyman and so on and so on. And, I'm the animal guy. And, so we all know who's got what and what we can do, but it's much more casual than Darius is set up. I guess just by nature, because not everybody's on board with the same ideas. But and also, I think think I've run into 3 preparedness-minded guys, and then I'm one moved away to Kelowna. Thanks, Carmen. Yeah. So anyway, but yeah, no. So it's tougher for me, I guess, because I got less of a pool to draw from. Like we're in an unincorporated area versus a larger city, so I guess the pickings are going to be slimmer, right?
Yeah. And one thing I will bring up about that as well is that, and the reason I started with that, I have what I call as the nested mag. I have a very, very formal structure with the main 6 people who I communicate with and have that structure built with, that they can take over at a moment's notice if something's happening. Between the 6 of us, we have roughly 9 to 12 external people who I would also consider a more informal mag. They don't know that fact, but they're people who I'm also communicating with and helping to develop their skills. I just wouldn't necessarily, plan all of our resources with those individual people. Instead, I have them know that, if there's an emergency, come to me, my group will take care of you. And then we can put their skills to use. And with them, it's all very informal. I don't talk to them about anything that has to do with, necessarily preparedness, but with all of their individual skills.
Yeah, I'm more on the informal side of things as well. I like I said, I like Darius's way of just kind of slowly working people into the group until they don't realize that they're in the group, and then all of a sudden, surprise, we're all in a mag now, and you can't get out. You're stuck.
Yeah, but doesn't that just mean Jeff is going to steal all your stuff?
Yes, no, he's not in my mag.
That's a difference.
I know where my threats are in the area. It's Jeff. So he doesn't know that there is another group of people that I'm building up silently to fight against him.
Yeah,
do not tell
use
him.
his picture at the knife or the axe throwing range and everything else, right? So.
Yeah. But I'm more on the informal side of things as well. I do see where the formal side with structure and reporting structure and that kind of thing would be very useful, especially in a stressful type of situation. But for me right now, the more informal way kind of works best. But there's pros and cons to both setup, right?
Well, and I think Melissa nails it here too. She says your mag should be able to go through good times and bad with each other. So communication is important, and even more when shit happens. So that's true. Like even if somebody just like child gets sick, whatever, and you can help out by babysitting the other child or whatever, like while they take them to the hospital or something, that's a huge community building event as well. Like, so it doesn't always have to be like preparing for disaster. It could just be helping them out when they're in need, and not so much gaining like a favor or gaining like a good reputation, but just like building that teamwork, right?
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Well, and I think it's a whole lot easier to recruit people into an informal mag when you're just like, yeah, look at all these news articles about the world going to crap. I kind of want to be able to, look after myself. But I think you're right, Darius, in that having a little more formal structure, when things flip and there is a need for that chain of command and that organizational continuity as a group, as an organization. So I think having a head start on that does make a lot of sense.
Yeah. I'll agree with that.
But I do like I like the idea of having that smaller, tight knit group. Those people that will have your back in a situation that could like a really bad situation. I think that stems from it could stem from a bad place. It stems from fear, and that is that I have family, I have small children. It's like I don't want a large group that are knowledgeable about my inner workings, I guess. I want that tight knit group that if like we were talking about before, if somebody had to be kicked out of the group, I want that tight knit group that's going to have my back in case that person decides to come back.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, and like I was talking about those 12 or so people who I have kind of in my extended mag, I consider all of them to be dependents of me, for lack of a better term. Family members, kids, all those kind of things. I want to make sure that no matter what happens, regardless of where I am or what condition I'm in, those specific individual people are taken care of, and somebody else will be looking out for them, even if I'm not right there. And that's kind of why I built this nested mag, so that I'm working with everybody as a group, but I have one dedicated team that I can rely on to make sure that everybody else in the mag is safe.
I do like that you have a very structured set for your 6 main people, and then everybody else is kind of informal. I'm not sure that I would do that here where I am, but I understand why you've done it that way. And I think it's a good thing.
Yeah, it's completely situationally dependent.
A good friend will help you move. A really good friend will help you move a body. So that inner circle of 6.
And they won't ask questions.
That's right.
No habla inglés.
That's right.
Who's car are we driving?
I need lye, a shovel, and 2 flashlights. Don't ask questions.
I got a pickup truck.
And then all you have to do is say a word, and people are already procuring resources.
There you go.
It's all about knowing what resources you have available to you in your group. Brad's got a pickup truck. Perfect.
So we need a soap maker for the lye, then, is what you're saying.
Oh, I didn't join Fight Club.
We should probably not plan this out on a live stream.
It's all theoretical.
This is how people get caught real easy.
Actually, fun side story for a second. Actually, 12 of the 16 people that were involved with the Gretchen Whitmer kidnapping plot were FBI agents. So 12 of them got 4 of them busted. It was actually kind of funny. So which one of you 2 are feds, or 3 or 4?
Well, clearly we know Brad is, because he's a robot.
Yeah.
Apparently I am.
I'm the left-wing prepper, so I may as well be a unicorn.
Yeah. There you go.
Oh boy.
I thought that was Ian.
Yeah, I thought Ian was a unicorn.
Yeah.
Yep. Totally the unicorn.
You know what I didn't say in what I'm doing lately for preps, right?
Leave your assless chaps out of this. I don't want it.
CGN.
No,
CGN.
no, CGN. CGN.
Yeah. Gotta sneak that in there. Anyway, we got anything left on that one for Darius's notes? I don't think we have anything left.
I was just
I
gonna
think we
see
pretty
if
much
anybody
covered all
else
that.
on the panel has anything else they want to put in, or
Oh, I know what we forgot to mention. Alan would be really sad that we didn't. Oh, what was it? I forget. Oh, well.
yeah. Oh well, next episode. Oh, there it is.
As luck
There
would
it
have it.
is.
Eric says some people have money, some people have time. Put ego aside for the group, and those that are leaders will lead. And when push time comes to shove, the leaders will lead and brandish the CO detectors. Boom. There you go.
1 hour, 12 minutes, 50 seconds.
There you
Point
go.
Eric F.
Well, all right. Well, I think that's a good way to exit the main topic and enter into the podcast challenge.
All right, for the podcast challenge this week, reach out to a potential MAG member, which is a neighbor, coworker, ham radio club, maybe acquaintance, who knows, and offer to help if they're in a bind, or host a campfire. Good idea, Darius. See where it takes you.
Awesome. Upcoming events. What do we got on the list?
Well, the only thing we have left really is TACCOM Canada, September 9th to 11th, coming up soon in the saug, as the locals say. TACCOMcanada.com. Probably the last chance to see a tactical gun show before the handgun ban or anything else. So, yeah, give her a whirl at the International Center.
Right. And Jeff left us hanging tonight. He decided he didn't feel like showing up, so no weather blurb from Jeff this evening.
There's no weather this week.
No, there's just no weather. It's simple as that. Yeah. We'll move into the deal of the week.
Okay, so I managed to find a decent deal going on at Canadian Tire right now. That's perfect for that backyard barbecue suggestion. They have what's called an outbound campground cookout starter kit. It comes with a gas stove as well as full cutlery plate set. Regular $200. It's currently on sale for $140.
Nice.
Does it come with chaps?
Oh.
No, I just looked
Okay.
at the picture.
Okay.
All right, let's move into the shout out, shall we?
Okay, I'd like to give a shout out first off to Dave for being willing to come onto the podcast with us and allow us to answer his questions about starting and building a mag and connecting with people. And I'd like to give a shout out to my personal inner circle, Shadow, Nari, Tucci, Lex, and Bear. And I would like to give them thanks for believing in my ability to lead them, although I'm sure that they question that decision daily by this point.
I want a cool nickname too.
I was going to say, I'm going to shout out Darius for the impressive gray man. I'm pretty sure none of those nicknames would be Googleable and find anything. well done, Darius.
You're correct.
Challenge accepted.
Yeah, I was gonna say you get lucky to Stanley Tucci, I guess, in all of his movies. That's about it.
That's true. That's true. I'm gonna shout out Bill, a buddy of mine from my mag, who is helping me with some comm stuff and some supply procurement, and joined us in the chat today. So good seeing you, buddy.
Awesome. I got a quick shout out for the S2 Underground YouTube channel, and thanks to Darius for finding this one. So it's a great video on the HF in prepper related emergencies, and he kind of goes outside the box on a bit of his thinking, and he does a bit of a disclaimer to begin with, but non-standard format, and it's actually definitely worth the watch. So 50 minutes, watch it at 1.5 times speed. You'll be done in 35, and yeah, it's worth your time.
Yeah, it's there's some interesting topics that he covers in there for sure. Do a quick shout out to listener Darren, still completing podcast challenges. So got episode 172 challenge completed. Quick reminder on that: it was find a skill and practice it, and his skill was Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. So thanks for still hammering out the podcast challenges.
Very impressive.
Should send him some asses, chaps.
Oh boy. Well, with that, I'll bring episode number 173 of the Canadian Prepper Podcast to an end. You can find the podcast on iTunes, Podbean, Spotify, or of course your favorite podcast app. Please help us out, submit a review. It does help other people find us.
And we record these shows live on Facebook and YouTube. If you want an early peek at the show, please subscribe to the YouTube channel, Canadian Prepper Podcast, and click the notifications tab. It gives you an alert when we're going live. And you can contact me at batbradcpp@gmail.com.
We love all your feedback, and I'm not responsible enough to have my own email address, so just send it to feedback@prepperpodcast.ca.
I might send it to him. We'll see.
I don't really want it.
Can't
And
touch
if
those
anybody's trying to get a hold of me, feel free to pop over to the Discord app, and I'm on there daily answering questions all the time.
You can check me out at Wellsby Roots on YouTube.
Awesome. Looks like Ian's frozen.
Looks like it.
Yeah, for sure.
Oh, is he there?
Mostly.
Am I still back now?
Maybe he's
Oh,
the
there
one.
he is.
There you go.
There he is.
Hello.
There he is.
Oh.
There you go. Okay, I'll just kill the video. That should help, maybe. Anyways, you can reach Ian directly by emailing me at theislandretreat@gmail.com. And you can also find me on Canadian Patriot Podcast, which is on iTunes and YouTube, recording Monday evenings at 9 p.m. Eastern. I'm in the Discord chat for both CPPs as well. Email us if you want an invite. And then you can find us discussing why government waste in society wants me to assemble my mag into its final form.
Well played, sir. Well played.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Please check out Rapid Survival, rapidsurvival.com. You can get me there on the live chat. You can also email me at feedback@prepperpodcast.ca. Thanks for joining us this evening. Until next time, be prepared, stay safe,
And keep learning.